As I've said before, we currently are still in Johnson Watch. I'm doing this on Friday, so this is coming out on Saturday. So who knows what's happened since then. But as we did a couple of days ago, we covered what Rishi Sunak's chances were of taking over and taking the position. And as has been said, voting in Rishi Sunak, hoping for maybe a change, is really the Tories' bet on the biggest leap of hope and faith that they can. Yet Sunak will have to face his own problems, and indeed the cost of living crisis that is going to hit definitely in April and is pretty much going to dominate probably the middle part of this year. Is going to be all on him. He was the Chancellor of the Exchequer. He's already facing a lot of criticism, and a lot of the Tories do not like him for his very, very spendy habits, shall we say. So there is, again, a lot about the Tory party that do not like Rishi Sunak and how he's been doing. So what about his potential rival? Well, that is obviously Liz Truss. As I've said many, many times, the next Tory leadership election is going to be probably a two-horse race between, of course, Rishi and Liz. But of course, lots of stuff could happen in that race. You don't know how these two people are going to react during the campaign. Stuff may come up. Again, Partygate may claim one of their heads. Who knows what may happen? So at the moment, it is still these two very much leading in these polls. So since we covered Rishi a couple of days ago, let's find out what Liz's chances are and how close Liz may very well be to being Prime Minister. And in this race, I very much think that this could very well be Liz's race to win. She has had a far, far better 2021 than not only the PM, but indeed most of her rivals for this position. So let's dive into this and find out. But before we do that, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do support the channel that way. And of course, now we're on with the show. So this comes from the New European with the title of Could Liz Truss be our next Prime Minister? When did you first become aware of Liz Truss? Was it perchance at some point in September of 2014, when she was perchance talking about the selling of a certain porcelain products? The then Environmental Secretary, Truss, went viral for a speech she gave to the Conservative Party conference, where she exclaimed, "In December, I'll be in Beijing, opening up pork markets, with the enthusiasm of a toddler high on lemonade." Over the following years, she has risen through the ranks of government, while for the most part remaining a bit of a joke. Dramatically uncool and always seemingly a bit odd. Truss has never been taken entirely seriously, despite making the feat for remaining in the cabinet under David Cameron, Theresa May, and Boris Johnson. In fairness, she doesn't help herself. Recently, her Twitter account posted a picture of her in Estonia on a tank, looking like a toddler high on, well, you get the gist. Look at the cabinet league table poll, though, on the Conservative Home website. And for the 12th month in a row, party members have picked Truss as the Secretary of State they were most pleased with. Her approval ratings are 82.3, and Boris Johnson's are minus 17.2. Few politicians have had such a good 2021, but she was certainly one of them. She is also likely that she will keep rising through 2022, and already there are rumours that Liz for Future Leader campaign is gathering pace. Intriguingly, it is through the most of her supporters are from the crop of 2019 MPs, and most of them from red wall seats. It makes very little political sense for them, and their constituencies are former Labour heartlands, won over with big promises of a bigger state and more generous investment in the north. A libertarian and free market liberal at heart, Truss should have very little to offer them, aside from a P45 at the next election. and they have all rallied around her regardless is quite interesting, and proof that she's more a skilled politician than many give her credit for. There is a dorkiness, of course, but also a very steely optimism that is currently in short supply elsewhere in Westminster. There is also now an entrenched sense of ideology, which has not been seen in the Conservative Party in a number of years. Like or dislike what Truss stands for, it is at least very clear that she stands for something. She founded the Free Enterprise Group in 2011, and a year after joining the Commons, she was closely involved with the launch of Freer in 2018. If you say free markets in the mirror 3 times, she will appear in a puff of smoke and tell you about Adam Smith. What is, of course, less clear, however, is how she will fare as Foreign Secretary over the next year. Not unlike the Prime Minister who appointed her, Truss, at her most comfortable, is blatantly having a nice time. As her Instagram shows, she signs when cuddling lambs, riding a bicycle, and holding the Union Jack umbrella, or posing in a helmet next to an aircraft carrier. This is why she rose and rose while the International Trade Secretary. Truss loves grinning next to various foreign dignitaries, and all those years she did very little else. Regrettably for her, the world isn't a terribly comfortable place at the moment, and she is now the one dealing with it. If the powder kegs like Russia and China explode next year, will she be able to deal with it? How about Saudi Arabia, Bolsonaro's Brazil, and of course the unfolding humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan? We all remember the idea of Gavin Williamson telling Putin to go away and shut up while Defense Secretary. And it feels possible, if not unlikely, that Truss could end up failing to rise to the occasion in a very similar manner. Because of Brexit, Britain cannot hide behind the European Union when convenient if something happens. Truss will have to stand alone. And can she? Or perhaps her problems will start closer to home. Being that her heir apparent to the Prime Minister is not a safe place to be in Westminster, all eyes are on you, and few of them are entirely benevolent. Though Johnson remains firmly in place for now, number 10 is a place where paranoia flourishes and ambitious secretaries of state are, at best, tolerated. There is also a very certain irony in her position as Foreign Secretary. After all, this is where Boris Johnson himself was sent by Theresa May when she feared, not unreasonably, that he wanted to oust her. It is said that those around Truss, both MPs and advisors, are already being watched closely. What happens if one of them oversteps the mark? One clue can be found in the fate of Bim Afona, Truss's former PPS, who wrote a critical piece of the government and found himself demoted to the DCMS. This means the Foreign Secretary will have a very fine line to tread on. She cannot be seen to be overly ambitious, and she cannot let herself fade into the background either. The only thing it can only remain a rising star for so long, and SW1 is littered with the ghosts of bright young things who ran out of steam eventually. This is also the world in which 2022 ends with Liz Truss' rise looking unstoppable. Or perhaps it is a world in which she is in Downing Street. There is another world that is just as plausible, in which the only thing people say of Truss is, remember that pork market speech, then burst out laughing. The Foreign Secretary will need to play her cards right for the next 12 months, but then she's been playing her cards right so far. And the question is that enough? And in politics, it rarely is. So as you can see, Liz Truss easily has the most challenging year ahead. Not only that, she's got the Brexit negotiations to handle. You've got the situations of Russia and China, and not to say, of course, Afghanistan. There are mounting challenges ahead of her. Any of these could very, very quickly come and topple her, shall we say, end her, shall we say, very meteoric rise. But of course, as I said before, we are still on Boris watch. These problems may not necessarily be a problem if, shall we say, Boris decides to go in a couple of days' time. Who knows? Maybe Saturday morning he decides to go. Maybe it could be Monday. Maybe, who knows, he just decides to remain for the time being. All in all, we'll have to see. But needs to say, there is pressure mounting on Boris. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button on your way out. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.